This video is going to be of the pieces that you would need if you're going to do a Pontifical mouse set. So what we have is the chasuble in the 4 pieces. So you need 2.5 yards of fabric, 2.5 yards of lining, 1 emblem, 8 yards of wide trim, 19 yards of narrow trim. Now this would include all the trim that you need to go around all the 5 pieces. It takes quite a lot, 19.5 yards. You need 2 4-inch crosses, 4 3-inch crosses, 2 1-inch cross, and 1.5 yards of fringe. Now if you just want to do an extra chasuble, you'd need 1.5 yards of fabric, 1.5 yards of lining, 1 emblem, 8 yards of wide trim, 6 yards of narrow trim, 2 4-inch crosses, 4 3-inch crosses, 2 1-inch cross, and 1 1/4 yards of fringe. For the Humerial veil, you would need 1.5 yards of fabric, 1.5 yards of lining, 1 emblem, 1 1/4 yards of fringe, and 1 clasp. For the cope, 5.5 yards of fabric with a 10-inch repeat. Since you want to match the front piece coming down and the back center piece, you may need more fabric if there's a larger repeat. But you'll only need 5.5 yards of lining. And the emblem, you'll need 1 emblem for the back of the cope. Now the wide trim that goes up and down the front of the cope, you need 7.5 yards. If you want to put narrow trim all around the bottom of the cope, here's the cope. This is the front sections here, the neckline, the back piece. It takes 12 yards of narrow trim. And then you'll need a clasp, and you'll need 1 1/4 yards of trim. See, 1 1/4 yards of trim, fringe. The dalmatic, you'll be making 2 dalmatics. You need 5 yards of fabric, 5 yards of lining. Again, watch the repeat on the fabric since you're going to want to match the front and the back with the same center part showing. On the wide trim, this is a 3-inch trim. Here it is here. The deacon and the subdeacon. Deacon takes two stripes, and the subdeacon only takes 1. So you need 12.5 yards. You need 5 yards of narrow trim. The narrow trim goes all around the outside edge on all 2 pieces. And for the deacon, you're going to need a stole. So you need 1 yard fabric, 1 yard of lining, 2 3-inch crosses, and 3/4 of a yard of fringe. If the dalmatic fabric is very light and your trim that you're putting on there is rather heavy, you will need to put a backing behind that fabric, otherwise it's going to sag and it's not going to look very nice. Go to the store, see what you can find. You can also use horsehair. So you'll need the length of the dalmatic 4 times for the front and the back. I usually use on the cope on these pieces here coming down the front, I use something behind it as well. You can use horsehair, like I said, or some kind of very light canvas. And the chasuble, depending on the weight of the fabric, you should put something behind the emblem, and we are going to be putting the trim. Put something behind it, because if you don't, it really is going to sag. Okay, good luck, good sewing.